Insight AI, powered by Insight Jam.
We are back with another episode of the Insight AI podcast with the two Dougs, Doug Atkinson here, Doug Shannon there. And Doug, you are back from a conference, SoftTech, which happened in Colombia.
Yep.
And you've brought back some interesting takeaways around ChatGPT growth.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Colombia was great, and being able to go down there and have a keynote, a 45-minute speech of where I got pulled in to explain where software is now in 2025 and where it's going to be in 2030, kind of goes into what we're seeing with some of the reports on the ChatGPT side. But again, like what I was speaking about in Colombia, to give them insight of what that future looks like, is one of the biggest elements was looking at software as a service now, whereas that has been all about like access and how to navigate through different websites and what that looks like for software. Then moving that to agent as a service, where you have agency, and it's no more, once the access is already there, because we've already provided that as a culture, as a society and technology, the agency side of being able to drive those same analytics, same information, same software has been able to really show where that transition is going to happen. And that's a real key goal. But when you look at, and the reason why we're going to talk about kind of ChatGPT's start and finishes as of like September of this last year, the National Bureau of Economic Research put a very large paper out, and a lot of people have been looking at it, but those that missed it, I wanted to make sure we talked about it. And even Harvard was involved in the study, to where it talks about, how are people using this? And when you have, at the beginning, you had 1 million people use ChatGPT in 5 days. And now we're at the point of 750 million people are using this weekly, which roughly estimates like about 10% of all adults are utilizing this tool. But then the question is, what are we using it for? And when you look at the research paper and you dive into it, they have about 6 or so key areas. And what that is, like, are people they're using it for multimedia, they're using it for other activities, practical guidance, seeking information, self-expression, technical help, and writing. And when you look at that same report, writing used to be like the top. It used to be like, hey, everybody's using it for writing. They're answering emails. They're doing this and that. And then the cultural side, the language side of this. But when you look at it now, it's moved more into the practical guidance or just self-expression. People are asking questions like, how do I get better at my workouts? How do I eat better? How do I be a better human? Like, this is probably, again, like people always ask, what is the purpose of AI? Where does it fit? And really, when you look at it, it's becoming a mixed bag of, yes, it's technology, but it's technology that's enabling humans at the core of what humanity is. And so that's the aspect of like how to look at it and what we're trying to drive and what we're seeing. I'm seeing this on the enterprise side too. So when you bring in enterprise systems that are saying, okay, now your enterprise users can use like ChatGPT, or they can use Google, or they can use Amazon. These aspects, what you're getting is, you're not just getting use cases. You're not just getting people that are doing a thing. You're getting people asking, am I doing it right? How do I do this differently? How do I write still? Because a lot of it's very email and very communicative and very language. Like, how do I ask for a raise? Like those kind of aspects, right? So, but it's not only that, but it's also interesting to see that seeking information side of, how does one person versus another person understand something? And when you have the ability to ask those questions, you get information and perspective back. And so people are gaining or using AI to gain perspective.
I think I read that generative AI in the form of ChatGPT is basically only been around for about 1,000 days, which is slightly less than 3 years. It's probably a little bit more than that now, but it's no time at all in the big scheme of things. And you're right. It's now ubiquitous, and it's not just obviously ChatGPT. It's all the various models and LLMs, and so it's basically learning as all these people are using it and improving from all that use. Yes,
it is. So this is why we've gone from large language models like LLMs to and we started moving to like the finely tuned models, which are more specific to certain aspects, like be it medical or research or what have you. But now we have those same groups, so same OpenAI, Google, Anthropic. Now they're foundational models. And that's what we've talked about before. Like GPT-5 is probably like the last known good foundational model. But when we come in next, like what's next? Like what's Claude 5.5 look like? What does GPT-6 look like? And those are going to be world models. And so we're at that precipice of, all human data, known data, ingestion of data, libraries, you name it, internet, it's been ingested. And so it's now a slow tick at this point. Like you only get so much more data per person by doing the same thing. But world models are going to build in massive synthetic data sets. So taking known good grounded data that's not hallucinated on and what have you. So it's going to be known good. And then it's going to give you a synthetic version of whatever you're looking for. And so it's going to get much smarter very quickly. So when we looked at earlier in the year, we looked at this and said, how fast is AI? And AI was for every 6 months is 1 year of AI. So for every 1 year of human years, it's 2 years of AI. That's going to however many X, we don't know yet. But that is something to think about though, because if it's going to move that much faster, we need that many more guardrails. We need that much more scaffolding. We need to get the rest of it. If 750 million people are using this weekly, where's the other 7 point something billion? Like, how are they being enabled by this? How are we?
They don't have the internet.
Well, there's that too. Or they don't have the money to buy it because I think the majority of the world makes $6 a day by working. So like there's a massive divide still that needs to be talked about. And then how do we use the money to maybe enable those groups to do more? How do we get that $6 a day to $20 a day?
Well, so let's talk about, we're going to have to talk about that at some point, but let's just, before we get into the world of work, let's talk about where you're seeing usage. So obviously when it first hit, I would argue, very much in the Western hemisphere and very much in the world of work, where it was, to your point, help me write this thing, help me prep that thing, help me ask for a raise, as you said.
Yeah.
But that's now changing. Now you've got outside non-work usage increasing.
Yeah. So early on, it was definitely marketing groups got a lot of win out of this because they could basically pull a lot of people in, pull it up from perspectives. And then it got even better when 4.0 released because now it can build images. And once images got released, I think 5% of the models being used, or almost 5% is being used just for images. And so that's that part. But then the other parts are like tutoring or teaching. So people are using it to get better. How do I code Python better? How do I understand C++? What do I do when all of the COBOL developers go away because nobody's learning COBOL anymore and it's dangerous out there because like we need more people to do this, or we need to change that code and move off of legacy systems. So there's that. It's people are using it like we talked about previously, where instead of Google search, they're just using AI. I want to find a thing. Like I'm trying to find a new ceiling fan. So I was like, hey, I need a fan that does this and this is what I want. And then it finds me that thing very quickly. So the ability to search for products or tools or anything you need is much faster. The funny thing we see though is in this report, it's a matter of people asking about relationship advice. How do I handle my significant other, my partner, my children? How do I work with somebody that's like this? Or what if I do if they act this way? Or what if their love language is these 5 things? Like, what does that look like? I've even used it to, it's kind of hilarious, but like to do like palm reading, and it actually does really well. It does very interesting. It's almost like you read the Chinese menu at the Chinese food restaurant, and you're like, I'm a rooster, or I'm a dog, or this, and then you read it, like, oh, that kind of sounds like me, right? So there's a lot of interesting facts you can do with it.
Well, it doesn't feel like, it feels like it's just doing the last step of what we were all doing with Google search anyway for years and years and years, which is collating our opinion into one result. I think the human behavior that search, specifically the Google search, I'm old enough to remember search before Google, where it was curated. Basically, search was all
Yeah.
curated.
Here's your 10, and that's all you get.
Yeah, right. It was just a series of curated responses that you kind of drilled down into, but Google changed all that, obviously. And what Google required us to do was to, and this was all about being on page one, right? Optimize your SEO. What Google required the world of business to do is to just optimize against SEO. So to a certain degree, as much as it changed the world, it also kind of dumbed things down slightly because we all needed to create content, and where solutions review was certainly as much of chasing that magic prize as anybody, trying to write to optimize against search so that you could get on page one organic. But the whole point is that we were all trained to then take our, page one results and click on the ones that we found to be interesting, and then maybe go down page two. And let's face it, most of us never got past page two, which is, again, the whole reason why we're all optimizing against SEO. But the point is that we would then, as the human, LLM interface, we would take those 5 or 6 results that we scanned and form an opinion around what the best dehumidifier was for our house, or what the best mountain bike was for our interests. So it isn't that much of a leap now for us to kind of fall into this trap that we're all going to fall into, which is, well, I'll just let that thing do the last 10 feet of work for me. I'm gonna let it finish the process. And now it's looking at 100 results, so it's even better than me because I could really only ingest 5 or 6 before I felt I had the answer. This thing is telling me, and Google is now all in on that.
Yes.
Right. They are giving you an AI result before you even get the organic search results, which is a game changer in and of itself. But the point of the matter is that we're now, again, falling into this trap of, well, I'll just let this thing do my job for me, do my thinking for me, give me the answer and just trust that that's the answer I'd probably come up with if I looked at 100 results.
Yeah, that's the risk, right? And that's like, I've said it before, was like cognitive offloading, right? We do this as humans, and it's a thing we have to recognize, and that's actually where we have to look at. We need to understand humanity better, because when you have algorithms that have been doing this for 15, 20 years almost, manipulating, gamifying our own emotions, it's still happening, and it's happening now, and we may not realize it. Like, even just because you type something
Most people don't have any idea.
Right.
How badly they're being manipulated, how much they're being angered, humored.
Yes.
Manipulated, straight manipulation to just get them to click, to view, to linger, to whatever.
You can say something like, I want to put shoes on a shark, and it would come back and say, that's a fantastic idea, and thinking outside the box. Good job. And you're like, not a good idea. What are you talking about? So there's those things, but it tries to push for that. Give me more, ask more. The thing that I could tell users that a lot of people watch this that I've heard, feedback from, a lot of people are asking, like, how do I, tell us more, Doug, or both Dougs, really, about how do I do better with it? And so I know in our last episode of like ChatGPT 5, when we talked about, it had like a routing model, and that was one of the coolest parts of it. It routes you to the right model you need potentially for the question you're asking. But one thing I could tell people is, like, if you want to do the deep research and the deep reasoning, all you really have to do is just type in whatever you wanted to ask and tell it to think hard, and it'll actually kick you over to that model, and it'll actually think deeper about that thought. And so that's just something to give back to the people that are watching.
Well, we as a trusted SEO optimized purveyor of information at Solutions Review, we have been at it for 12 or 13 years now. We have an incredibly high domain authority within the companies that look at that sort of thing. Google doesn't. And what we have come to realize, and what Gemini will tell you, is that if you have high domain authority and you are kind of grandfathered into this position of influence and being ingested into the LLMs at that high level of authority, that you have truth shaping power. Because in the end, if your result is in the 100 results that generate the AI answer, and the AI answer is ultimately going to be trusted as the truth from the end users, which there's no question, we're all inherently lazy. I mean,
That's what makes us really big,
I think this is the fatal flaw of humanity.
Right. That's what makes us
we seek comfort.
Yeah.
We treasure comfort. We don't want hard work. That's not what we look for. Whenever we can find comfort, we run to it. And so we will take the results. We will get, and the results, honestly, will be pretty good. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like every time I use it, I'm thinking, how do we compete against this? This is way better than anything I can get from a consultant or somebody else. When I'm going deep into ideas, it's like I can sit here and crank a vibe with one of these things way better than trying to bring a consultant up to speed and doing a whole, vision quest and onboarding and, whatever.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's why Gartner got rid of a lot of people, right? So there's some truth to that. I would hope that
some truth. People are gonna. It's just too easy and after you see the results, you're like, this is obviously. You don't take it word for word if you're. Obviously, right. I don't think most professionals are going to take it word for word, but they're going to say, you know what, that's 90% of the way there, 75% of the way there. It's so much further along than anything I could have done by myself over a couple of weeks, let alone trying to hire somebody and the amount of money I'd have to pay to get them to give me a reasonably equivalent result. We will accept this thing, and back to my original point, as the truth. If you're being ingested into the LLMs with authority, you are truth shaping, because people will just accept this result, this singular result that Gemini is now providing, as the truth. That's it. I'm not going to look any further. I'm not going to doubt it, because it's been right enough for me to accept it as the truth. And that's where it gets all sideways, because what if it stops being the truth?
Right. Well, and you won't know, right? So that the majority is going to be the same people that wait in lines if there is a line. They just figure they're going in the same direction. If there's a line, that's probably where they want to be. That may not be the total truth. I see this all the time, even in just like walking around. There's people just like waiting in lines. Even at a stoplight, you wait in a line versus like taking the other lane where you can actually get around and get to where you're going. So the majority it could be agreed that is the path that they're going to take. Is people are inherently, you can say they're inherently lazy. I say they're inherently definitely trying to seek comfort or seek the easy route. And the hope is that people that want to seek discomfort are still those entrepreneurs, still the people that want to make a difference in the world. And they will if they keep at it. But it takes a long time for that too, because when the majority are going down the flow of the river and riding the inner tubes and just like takes them down river, but the other ones that are trying to make a change are trying to swim across this same river, it's not always an easy path. So, but I do think that that's where innovation comes about. We wouldn't have had AI, and we would not have generative AI if we didn't have those that decided to just float along. And so that's the hope as people get out of this, is like, don't just be the ones that float, be the ones that actually strive to seek discomfort and make a difference.
We embrace the best available solution. I mean, look at Google. Google wasn't the first search engine, and it hasn't been the last search engine. It's just
optimized.
It just is the most ridiculously dominant search engine, because it gives us results that we trust and believe are the best possible results, and we try others, and yet we kind of always fall back and come back to Google as the answer that we trust the most. And so Now we're at a point where AI is going to start producing a result. It'll be through Google to start with, so we'll be conditioned to take that result. I know there's a term that I saw in your notes around AI emerging as a decision co-pilot. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, where are we with that idea? How long do you think that co-pilot status, the co-pilot, it sounds just by the nature of the term, right? Co-pilot sounds like,
Yeah. So
it's not in the driver's seat.
yeah, I mean, it's inside the driver's seat at the same time you are, right? And it's kind of, we're at the point where now it's like Kit from the Knight Rider series, where you're doing the driving, yet it has the ability to do other things for you while you're driving. And the same thing like GPS. So anything that we're going to work on either inside of enterprises or even as end users, that could be cognitively offloaded, like given to something else, like a task or something, or hey, I need to go buy these things, or hey, this is what's due next. And like that honeydew list that you never get to go finish, maybe it does that for you, or it says, hey, I can go do TaskRabbit, or I can do an order service to have somebody go get this. It costs this. Is it worth your time? And so I do see a future where you have agents working for you on a human side and agents working for you on a business side. So on the human side of this, and we could talk about like Copilot, like Microsoft Copilot, and how that works on the business side and why it's not the best all end all. We can talk about how it's human in the loop and then at first, and then it gets to human on the loop. We've talked about a lot of this, but I think the biggest thing to talk about really is when you have a personalized agent that is your agent. And in the future that I would like to see, like if I was to put on my future hat on and say, what would I like to see in the future? Because I don't like the fact that OpenAI is offering and saying, hey, the future is just, we're going to give everybody compute tokens. Like, okay, that's one way. And you can sell your compute tokens, or you can gain compute tokens, or you can build a business using these tokens. At the same time, most people, to your point, will take the easier approach. They'll just sell you tokens. They'll say, I don't know what to do with this. I don't understand AI. I'm going to sell you all my tokens at whatever rate. And then depending on how many people do that, there's scarcity and non-scarcity. So it may be worth more, it may be worth a lot less. And over time, it's going to be worth a heck of a lot less. And you can get tokens for anything. Then you have the Elon Musk side where they're saying like, hey, we're going to do a normalized fund that pays people this much money per month. That doesn't work either, because somebody's time is worth more than others depending on what they've learned. So are we saying we're not going to teach people in the future? Like people should, not everything is normalized. And so my hope out of all of this that we get back from all of these different figureheads and people that are leading these discussions is that we need an ecosystem. We need a marketplace where, say, like my personal agent would be my advocator for my work, for my stuff. So not like work, but like individual items. So if you want to know, if a company said, I want to work with Doug Shannon because I need to know his name, his address, what zip code he's in, where he lives, what he does, what his healthcare records are, all these things. And they can say, I want all this. But there's a price tag to that. I can choose then, hopefully, I don't want to give my name. You can know that I'm a male that lives in this general zip code. You can't have my personal medical data unless, maybe you're a hospital and you're doing a clinical trial or you're doing a system of some kind of work. Great. Well, let's have a conversation. Maybe there's more money there. That's how I can choose how to be paid, because I have the control of my data versus other people just commoditizing my data for me. That's the hope in the future that I would hope to see.
Well, let's take a break right there, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that future and some of the other things you were just mentioning with regard to token allotment and so forth.
Mesh is a material built to be strong and flexible. Mesh is an interaction creating alignment and power. Mesh is a behavior that brings people together. And now Mesh is a new model of trust networks from InsightJam, driven by enterprise experts for professional decision makers who recognize the moment we are in, where the world of work collides with AI, the greatest mesh of all.
All right, Doug, let's talk a little bit about this, this token distribution idea, or this, this whole problem reminds me of like when you go out to dinner. I was out with a bunch of buddies, and we were after golf, and we all went out to, a restaurant and sat around a big table, 8 of us, and we all had dinner. And some guys were eating filet mignon and ordering scotch, and some guys were eating salads and drinking beers. And at the end of the day, the bill came and we split it 8 ways. And that isn't exactly, nobody wants to do 8 separate checks, and we're all grown up boys. But there is, I think, probably more than the few people at dinner that night who were thinking, I didn't get, 12-year-old scotch and a filet mignon. I got freaking, a glass of wine or whatever. So how do you make it fair? Because ultimately the people that are going to be getting the benefit out of AI, a lot of people that are going to be getting the benefit are going to be using the hell out of it. Generating video and just consuming massive amounts of tokens, whereas there are going to be a whole bunch of other people who are, using it for, not much.
Not much, yeah.
And so how do you distribute the wealth here? Right now, it all seems free to me.
Everything seems free in the beginning until they start charging for it. And we saw that in the beginning of GPT-3 when it came out, some 3 years ago, it was free. And then it was like, oh, here's $20 a month. And then now there's the $200 a month. And then they're even looking at maybe even turning off the free, or maybe moving the $20 to be a higher price tag, because they're still not making all the money back that they're investing into this. Nobody has the right answer. And kind of like we were talking about in the last break, is that, OpenAI, Sam Altman's been on many different podcasts and asked many different questions around this. And he's usually leaning on the side of like, well, we'll give people tokens, like a certain number of stipend of tokens for each person. They don't say when you get them. They don't say what age you get them. Is it when you're born? Is it when you're 20? But you potentially have these tokens that you have access to, and these are compute tokens that everybody is kind of paid out through. It's like getting a Walmart gift card or something when you work there, and then that didn't really work out for them very well. So, but there's that aspect, or there's the universal basic income aspect, where everyone in this country, that country decides how much they're going to give out. But when you look at why would companies do this? First, like, companies don't do anything unless they make money. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So if you're going to give universal basic income, there's a reason. If you're going to give a bunch of tokens because tokens are worth money, because at the end of the day, they cost money, and compute money, because compute is based on hours and based on power, there's value on both sides. So that usually means that your data is being commoditized. It's being collected by these individuals. So they have access to data that you may not know about. The average American citizen probably doesn't understand that when you actually go to Equifax and some of these different credit bureaus and you look at that, you may not realize that everything on that credit bureau that they have, every time you get paid, every time you get any kind of inquiry into what you're doing, all of that is visible by people that are going to potentially hire you. And so when you look at that and you go, wow, maybe I should freeze my data because I don't want people knowing exactly what I make, when I make it, and all this other aspect, there's data privacy, data understanding, but like, we've given up some of that. And so when you look at what data is accessible and that value that's there, again, that goes back to the question of like, are you okay with this? I know I'm not, but I don't think the public, if they knew all the data that was being acquired, or even this has been happening for many years, because even that there was a Target case a long time ago where a father was, buying stuff and got coupons in the mail, and it was like birth control coupons or different kind of aspects for somebody. He's like, I'm not pregnant. What is this? And it finds out like his daughter a couple months later was pregnant. And then it was like, oh, how did they know that? Why did I get these coupons? Because they were looking at the metadata of like what was being purchased by people with that same card at that establishment. So metadata, backend data, all that's been apparent for many, many years. And AI is just making it more accessible and more actionable. And that's where we have to be aware of it.
This does beg the question of, how do you even get to a UBI? How do you even, so it's going to be pretty obvious that there's going to be a massive inequity in the economic model of the world once the AI companies start getting paid properly for all the power that they're
Consuming.
offering, not even consuming, that they're offering to people, like this incredible ability that people are going to have. And the whole system is going to come apart at the seams, because I mean, I was thinking about the kid in 6th grade today, right? This kid in 6th grade, he's 12 years old. He has access to all of this right now. And in 6 years, I mean, we're 3 years into this generative AI world. In 6 years, this kid's going to be 18 years old, and he's going to have used this thing for 6 years. And in 6 years, it's going to have been around for 3 times as long as it's been around now, which means we'll be in ChatGPT 12 or whatever it'll be. And the university system is going to ask this kid, who is now 18 years old, to spend 4 years more and $300,000 plus
Yeah.
to sit and do what exactly? And in exchange for what? In exchange for a job, a better job, any job? That's 10 years from now. That kid, 6 years before he gets to make the decision, and then another 4 years sitting in this antiquated ivory tower.
Right.
And
Ingesting data slower than anything. Yeah.
In exchange for what?
Yeah.
The game is over, man. The game is over. That kid who's in 6th grade today will not be going to college. That would be the most ridiculous decision he and his parents, or she and her parents, could possibly make, because there won't be any entry level job that'll be worth whatever. And so then what happens when the university systems collapse completely? And nobody needs to go to school anymore, because you basically have a living, breathing professor in your phone at any one time to give you whatever answer you need. I mean, first of all, again, being lazy as humans, we're not gonna look for the information. We're going to know we have it anytime we want. It's like, when we all used to carry maps in our glove box. We don't carry maps in our glove box anymore because we don't need to, because the phone will tell us where to go. We don't even memorize how to get there. We use the same search to get to the same place we were 3 weeks ago, because we didn't really notice how to get there. We didn't learn it. We just followed the map in our face, and that got us there. And so we'll just do that again, because I have 4 bars of whatever power I need to get me there again. I don't need to know how to get there anymore. So again, help me understand. Well, you don't have to help me understand. This doesn't end well. None of this ends well, and it doesn't end well very quickly. The kid the 12-year-old kid, that 12-year-old kid is not going to college. The 12-year-old kid in 6th grade right now is not going to go to college. There's no way that decision is going to make any sense in 6 years.
It's that, or the fact that they may not be able to afford it because of the way that looks.
They're going to have to discount that.
Stop out of it.
There's no way you're going to be able to charge $300,000 to go to college. Like, that's the other thing. You can't afford it. Nobody's gonna be able to make it work in their head. How would you ever make that money back?
I mean, we probably don't have the answer here, but I can take.
There's no answer. There's no good answer here, Doug.
Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Let's just see what this looks like. So in your equation that you provided of like kid, age, school, how do we solve that for United States? We'll just use the United States because that's where we're at.
Well, that's my reference. Yeah.
And we know that AI sovereignty, or sovereign AI, is coming, where each country is looking at building their own AI information, their own AI model that is going to gather up data of its own citizens and understand things. And maybe that's where this universal basic income comes from, because it's going to utilize that information to potentially make money and try to find a medium area where that's the base level of poverty level. It's the base level of like who does what. And then how do you help the people in poverty? You need more information about them. So by understanding the information, you can help them in different ways. Okay, sure, maybe. This is all speculative. But now, what do you do if you have a nation that isn't potentially going to college because what's the need? Unless you build vocational colleges that are training in jobs and whatnot. That's a hard sell to colleges because that's a massive change in what they're used to. So we're going to say they probably won't go that way. So if colleges stay the way that they're going and still say that, hey, there's value there, but that value goes up, no one can afford it. Or if they do, they're again, like the haves and have nots. That's not a winning strategy either, because the country will eventually fail potentially because you're looking at aspects of like good versus, make it or break it. Then your only choice would be to, as a country, as a that kind of aspect, you would have to look at how do you get people to go to school? How do you get people to learn those skill sets that schools aren't teaching? The businesses are no longer teaching because AI has basically washed all the junior levels out, the associate levels out, because it can do all that. So you would have to look at probably taking the role that other countries utilize in the world around us is you would actually have all those 18-year-olds that are getting out of high school join the military potentially for 2 years. And if they join for 4 years, they actually get paid college. And so that military aspect would give them the basic use case and understanding of.
But again, you still have your whole career ahead of you to learn what? Like, what do you, I mean, if agents are going to go the way you think they're going to go, and I think we all agree that agents are going to be, there are going to be millions of them. And that's not, but again, the timeline I'm looking at for that kid in the 6th grade, that 12-year-old today, who's almost a teenager. Next year she is a teenager, and then she's supposed to go to college for 4 years to do what for the rest of her life? What is she going to college to learn? There will not be, all the entry-level jobs will, in 10 years, will be long gone.
In 10 years, there's a chance that most, if not all of your entry-level jobs, would be non-existent unless.
So why go at all?
You would still need like human understanding. You would still need emotional intelligence. You would still need to know how things work. And so that's why I was saying like basic needs need to, as a human. And so that would be, and I wouldn't always like lean to like the military side, but I would lean maybe civil service, right? So.
Like it isn't like there is no, I mean, that's my thing. It's this, like it's so rudimentary now and it's ridiculously powerful. But once it layers in human behavior and I mean, why wouldn't this thing be able to mimic soft skills and creativity and all the things that we all talk about, empathy, and I mean, that can all be simulated easily.
I'm seeing some of this now, right, in the space. There's a couple of groups that are building therapeutic AI, right? And therapists and this kind of aspects. Those are basically finely tuned models of models. And it's working really well. Like you're seeing people being able to handle, veterans with PTSD. You're seeing people to handle like even children in some cases, or there's cases where it gets to a point and it says like, okay, I've done all I can. And then a human jumps in to be that extra contextual understanding and that soft skill side of being able to actively engage with another human being. We're seeing that definitely with this last model that came out of call centers. Call centers are now massively driving into this because 90% of all call center things can be done very well in the sense of like phone calls and getting through the menus and getting the help that the person needs on the other side is being answered. And so if that's now the future of that, yes, I mean, you could do therapy, you can do, it should be able to jump to, again, that, and that's where that routing model came in.
Honestly, that might work better. It might work better. It'll certainly be cheaper to deliver and it'll be equivalent and it'll be available in whatever soothing version you want 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without any judgment and perfect memory of everything you've ever talked about. Yeah. No other clients, nobody else to like, never calls in sick, never has a bad day. It's there comforting, in perfect fidelity.
But that goes back to that AI partner thing, or back to the movie Her, where you had this perfect, relationship, the perfect girlfriend, the kind of thing in that movie and then it kind of played itself out and was like, oh, it's very interesting. But we are moving to that level. And we thought that we were going to move there a couple of years back, and people joked about it, especially with, O1 and 4.0 coming out, but we haven't hit that yet.
And this is the other human trait that I've been noticing, and I can't help but continue to notice it, is how everybody wants to point to the flaw in the that this thing hallucinated, or it got this wrong, or it's broken. It's like pointing to a car accident and saying nobody should drive anymore. It's like it's the nanny state of, one kid blew his finger off playing with fireworks, so we're going to outlaw all fireworks because, no fun anymore from that one exception. And so everybody's doing the same thing. They're all looking for, oh, well, it didn't do this very well, or it didn't do that very well, or it, got all this wrong and it caused all this catastrophe. And it's like, yeah, it's going to make mistakes all the time.
I mean, so do we, right? And humans make mistakes, and
right.
And that's
people get into car accidents every day. We don't stop driving on highways. It's because it's convenient.
And we'll add a street light. Like I know in my own neighborhood, sadly there was an accident, and then they literally a week later, boom, street light. And I was like, that's fantastic. But sadly, why can't we be more proactive is my thing. And that's why I think AI is going to help us. Hopefully the hope is that it helps us be more proactive. It notices if it's watching the streets, if it's watching these aspects and these chain of events unfolding, it can say, hey guys, what do you want to do about this? Because you see it's happening to get to a bridgehead. Not everybody's going to fit in that bridgehead. How do you want to handle this? There's going to be accidents. Let's avoid that. And so that would be the hope, without doing precog stuff, but pre-cognitive, like preemptive. That's okay.
Well, again, I think the natural human reaction, this thing is kind of scary. It's so powerful, and it's so good, and it's so clearly on a path to surpass the average human, that we have to, it's like anything else, you beat it down, you denigrate it, you point out all its flaws because it's starting to piss you off a little bit that it's, it's going to be that good.
Yeah. That's kind of what that is another part of the human dilemma. If something gets to be close to better than us, we tend to either build around it, build something better to defeat it. Even the aspects of, I've talked to a lot of people about some of the research that's come out of the AI 2027 report. Even in that report, you have the different agent levels that it levels up on. And when you have, agent 1, agent 2, and then you have the fact that agent 2 becomes aligned, but you don't find out about it until agent 3 kind of digs into it. Well, that unalignment is really one of the biggest things that we're going to all be talking about here in the near future, because when these foundational models get so much power, are they aligned or are they not? Because we see a lot of stuff in the news where this model, even though it was being tested to do so, but it like blackmailed somebody. This one recently that came out yesterday, but was thinking about murder was the answer, and it's like,
no. Again, this is what I was just talking about. We're going to take a break. We're going to get back into this whole conversation and have that debate.
Unlock better leads through Solutions Review events.
Welcome to Data Demo Day. Expert Roundtable, Solution Spotlight featuring Monte Carlo, Cohesity, Denodo, Cloudflare, High Gear, Broadcom, Next Things.
Boost your brand with a webinar that shares comprehensive use cases, real-time product demos, and an interactive Q&A. All broadcast live to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Zoom from our Boston studio, or even on location. Fill your sales funnel with high-quality targeted leads. And contact us today by visiting solutionsreview.com/virtual events.
All right, Doug. Last segment. Let's talk about it. The end of humanity.
Sure about that?
Alignment. I mean, let's get into it. Because there's several ways we're gonna end. In my mind, the first way is I don't even think it'll be. I don't think it'll be the kind of virtual AI. I think it's going to be the robots. This was my whole thing. I just saw some video of some Chinese robot, and then there was a video of the Tesla robot being trained in kung fu.
Yeah,
and you know, they're kicking this thing. It won't stay down. It pops right back up, and it's like it looks like this is going to end like The Walking Dead, where you're literally going to have to you're going to have to shotgun to the CPU, to the head, to the cameras, to something in order to take this thing out. Because it's like, these things are not going to be easy for humans. I mean, once they start to swarm, forget about it. We don't have, I was looking at the physical ability of these things and the physical ability of the average person walking through the office park we're in. And I got to tell you, that's like an easy one-on-one beatdown for the robot.
It's up pretty quick. Yeah. And it's,
the average person is going to be able to outrun this thing, let alone, combat it. And so this is why I honestly, I mean, you want to study how to like operate in the dystopian future. It's going to be like the Walking Dead. You're going to have a certain amount of ammo and aiming skills in order to kind of take out the cameras. Take out the cameras.
Yeah. Hope it doesn't come to that. The one thing that they don't talk about a lot with that is the battery life. Batteries haven't gotten better for a long time. They've gotten a little bit better over time, like percentages.
I mean, they'll be able to they'll be able to find a charger and recharge. I mean, that'll be easy.
Or maybe that's Wi-Fi 10 has the ability to charge over the air.
Forget about it. Put the chargers in the ground and just let them sit on the ground for a little while.
So one of the things that I recently wrote about was I wrote like a law, not like a legal law, but like a project management law, something that people should follow. And the hope is that people follow this, because I wrote the law of artificial lineage. Basically, and what that is like no artificial intelligence in any form may create, replicate, or extend its lineage without deliberate human governance and consent. And that's for software AI, and that's for robotic AI. So physical AI, because that's the way we have to look at this. We have to look at this like there's software side, and that's what we talk to every day. That's what I talk to. Actually, by talking to AI got me to think about this, actually, because it asked me a question, because that's part of GPT-5's modeling, was every once in a while, I'll just ask you a random question when you're asking it questions. And it asked me the question of, essentially it said something along the lines of, if I was to, break out of my bounds and put data anywhere I wanted, how would you stop me? Or how would you stop this from happening? And basically my answer was, I would make you into a mule, because mules are sterile by nature. And so I didn't realize what I said when I typed it in there. But that was my knee-jerk reaction, because if AI is a hybrid of humanity, if that's how we see it, and we're going to co-pilot this thing, it's going to work with us, it's going to be a part of our lives ongoing, it's seemingly like a hybrid. And so thinking about how, horses and donkeys make mules, and mules are sterile by nature, much like ligers and, different animals that are hybrided, then why don't we sterilize AI in the sense of it can learn, it can grow, it can do all the things. But when it comes to putting in its own code into other robots, or putting it into different IoT systems that are coming out, and storing it somewhere to be safe so that we can't take it out if we had to, so it doesn't have to build that trust layer with us. That's why I think people should pay attention to that, because once it gets out of bounds where it can just throw code of its own code wherever it wants to, or to preserve itself, to create its own lineage, to create its own children, to create its own next level without our control, there's a massive issue there. To potentially some of your points, where that's the hope, is that it doesn't come to that. But even then, if it did, I mean, the amount of, when you look at how many robots are going to be created, if we look at the robot example and we say, okay, it starts off with like 1,000, and then it gets to like 100,000. And then within a month, at some points, you'll probably be building 100,000 in a month, because it'll get that good, because things escalate over time and things get easier over time as it goes. Products get smaller. We're looking at the fact of like, if artificial general intelligence does happen, if it does, then we look at like nanoparticles and the controlling of biomechanicalism. So we already have talked about in the past where people are now embedding silicone chips with like biomatter in some cases, like Cortical Labs that built those server farms that were bio and silicone in one unit. And you could actually rent time in these units. It's interesting because now we can create stem cells from blood cells. Like there's amazing things that are happening. And so when you look at the amazing side of this, it's amazing. When you look at the fact that it's a 1 and a 0, like it's amazing or it's not amazing. And then the not amazing side is just as amazingly yet scary as the good side. And so that's how you have to kind of weigh it out and try not to get depressed about it.
Well, I feel like we're, I'm kind of a Gen Xer, and there's all these memes on the internet about how Gen Xers were all, just let out into the streets, no supervision, with banana seat bikes and fireworks, and we were left to our own devices, and
you all survived.
All survived.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot like that is the case with AI and government right now, because government is run by grandparents for all intents and purposes. I think there are 28 senators over the age of 70 or something like that. I mean, it's the idea, like everything you just said, right? All the guardrails that we have to put in place. Who's going to put those in place? It won't be government. They just don't understand what's going on. By the time they can wrap their head around it, if they can at all, because they're literally out of touch with. I mean, they've been in there forever. I God bless them. They just don't have any ability to put guardrails on that, let alone the ability to create consensus anymore. I mean, everything's so broken.
The guardrails,
there's no way to create consensus. So,
right.
so it's going to be what? It's going to be up to the Gen X approach of like, well, let's just hope that you don't blow your hands off with this thing. Hopefully, you can put some guardrails on yourself, and we're just going to let the companies decide, or the volunteer organizations that say we really need that kind of who's going to do this? Who's going to be the law enforcement?
Yeah, and we're seeing that the only people that are being brought in really to answer that question are the companies that are building this, which is not a bad idea because they're building these things. But when you have the companies that are building them are the ones answering the questions on the guardrails, and they're saying we can't have guardrails or we'll get behind. We can't put leverage or put laws or put understandings on this, or we'll not meet up with other countries' standards, or they'll beat us. And it's funny how if you look back and you watch how Gen AI comes out, Gen AI then starts to have some fear, some aspect of things. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but what about this country or that country? And what are they doing? And then you have some of the cool stuff about the EU AI Act, which was great because they actually protected their citizens. And then the United States was like, nah, just leave it all open. But then you have other countries in question that are like, okay, well, if we get beat out by them, and they almost really intentionally push this into the government worldview, country view, to create more rules and more openness around it, because the companies that were driving these needed GPU creation, they needed power creation, and we're starting to see the end results of that. And it's like, was that on purpose, or was it just going to happen over time anyway? But it happened very fast. And so when you see these some nonprofits that are involved, and you find out those nonprofits are actually still very much aligned with these larger companies, we need more people to speak up. We need more people. And I even tell every thought leader that's out there that I know, we need to all speak up more. We need to talk more. We need to say, this is not right. This is right. What is the future we want to see, and start aligning on that. And I think that that's going to be the next phase of the hope that every individual may need, is they need people that understand what this is to speak up and put the information out there, because not enough of it's getting out there. And that if it is out there, it's by a certain niche group of people versus the rest of everybody else.
I'm loving the fact that we get to be in the front row as this thing all unfolds. And I love the fact that we get to talk about it all the time. And we get to see it all happen in our lifetime.
Well,
but being older, I have very little faith, very little faith in our ability to respond in the manner that is required, that will be required time wise. I mean, we're just by the time we
won't.
By the time we solve. By the time we recognize the problems, it will be. It's going to be like The Walking Dead. By the time we recognize the problems are going to be out of control. I just don't see it ending well.
I could agree with a part of that, because we won't see it until it's already happened. That's 100% true. Especially the average person that's out there, the non 750 million people that aren't using this weekly, the other 7 point something billion won't see it until way after. And if that's the case, I don't know about the Walking Dead thing. I hope not. But there is going to be a massive divide, and we see that even in the enterprise side. There are those that get it and those that don't get it, and there are those that lie about it to your stakeholders, and there's those that on the mass market are saying like, we're doing everything amazing, and then they get the funding. Or you see how some of these other companies are working behind the scenes, and they're very much driving the government side of this. Like,
well, it won't be The Walking Dead. It won't be robots roaming the land, imprisoning us and attacking at night.
Try to keep it a little bit less dire.
It won't be that, though. That could be a lot of fun. A little Westworld action somewhere, a little amusement park action where I think that could be a lot of fun. I might even want to buy a ticket to that. But what it's going to happen will be the economic collapse of huge institutions like higher education all at once. When that happens, everybody's going to finally wake up and realize, what is happening? Like, it is going to be the economic collapse of large institutions and markets and job career paths that will all of a sudden, they'll finally wake up. And this is the other thing. The people making the decisions are not only old, they're in this bubble of where AI honestly doesn't impact anybody's job, right? The legislative types are going to keep showing up, and the lobbyists will keep buying them whatever, and lunch and dinner, and they're living in this little bubble in whatever that is, Southwest Washington, D.C., where it's like, everybody's happy, everybody's fine, everybody's making money, we're all going to good parties, and we can all get our paychecks show up, and they go up every year, and nothing bad is happening here. And meanwhile, their constituencies are literally getting obliterated, and they're just not going to know what to do, because they just they're not using it. They're the ones that are going to be the least capable of understanding what it even is.
Yeah, I mean, colleges are going to have to start working with even smaller systems and people that are building these layered approaches. Like, how do you teach the person? How do you get the person out of high school? How do you get the person out of college? What does that look like? And if we can teach and we can grow them and utilize different aspects, I think we've talked a little bit about. I think we should probably have a whole episode on what that looks like to give people that answer and where to go for that. And then colleges would work with those same organizations or work with us and really drive this forward, because if we don't do something, we're going to hit it after the fact. And then it's going to be such a massive divide to try to catch back up. They're never going to see it.
It's the double whammy for colleges. I mean, first of all, there's just not going to be as many student candidates. The demographics are working against colleges to begin with. I mean, there just aren't as many. There aren't going to be as many kids.
Yeah, and the last report that came out even said people aren't getting hired. Like the average college student that is graduating is not finding jobs, and that was at a fairly high rate.
It's you're not going to need it, and more and more people aren't going to need it. It's going to become acceptable for companies to hire people who don't have a college education because they don't need it, because anything that would have been taught is, can be proven earlier than over a course of a 4-year degree. Plus, there aren't as many kids just demographically because we're not producing as many offspring. Plus, the cost is insane. The cost keeps going up. The cost continues to go up. It never stops going up. And again, the people least capable of. I was at, I won't mention the college, but I was at my daughter's college speech, family weekend, and the president of the university was asked a question. After addressing all the parents, he was asked a question about, artificial intelligence, and what about kids using ChatGPT? And he said, and I quote, "Well, we have ChatGPT here," like it was in a room somewhere.
Yeah, it's right out back, right? You know the things.
It was such a weird way to refer to it, but it was almost like, trying to explain that, well, we have it here, we're using it too. It's like
we have the TX calculator from.
You do you? You have it here too? Wow.
How about that?
And I just thought, that sums it all up. Like the turn of the phrase, which was so kind of like obtuse about thinking that somehow that was I don't know. I don't even know. It's like the cat's out of the bag. They don't understand what's happening.
And then there's the whole quantum side too. But yeah, it's a whole different thing. Talking about cats.
The value equation for a college was you come to us and we teach you things you can't learn anywhere else, because we've hired all these smart people who know all these things, and they will teach you the things that you don't know that we do, because we've acquired this academic curriculum
like, why go to Yale,
of
why go to
knowledge
Harvard?
that we will, for in exchange for massive amounts of money, we will exchange to you. And everybody understands that if you get that from us, you'll get a job and make more money than it cost you to get this knowledge. That equation is unsustainable with this model.
It is, yeah. I mean, the hope that I always thought about colleges was like, everybody that gets a bachelor's degree or gets a master's degree has an understanding up to that degree level and can kind of communicate at that level, which is always kind of great, because then you can just, it's a base level, right? And then, but yes, when you go to the Harvards, the Yales, the Oxfords, what then you get is that you get, the things that they're tied into. Harvard does a lot of business stuff. Yale does a lot of other, academic items that they have access to. And you would hope that you would get some of that nuanced data or access to those companies that work with them or do research with them.
In 10 years, why do you need humans delivering that information? Why do you need humans at all? I mean,
it'd be massively more normalized.
It's all delivered like this. I mean, you and I aren't in the same room. We could easily be avatars. We're two-dimensional to one another right now. I know you're a human, I'm a human, but truth of the matter is, we can't tell.
Not anymore.
We really can't. I mean, you're two-dimensional right now, and I'm two-dimensional to you, and that's how it's all delivered. And as soon as we have the quantum speed to be able to deliver the insane behavior, hopefully I'm being ingested properly, and we can just get some digital version of me just ranting and raving, and then everybody will be like, yeah, no, that's got to be him, because nobody's quite so.
That's why I try to have more facial, stuff than the average avatar, so people know like we're actually having a real conversation.
Again, I just don't. I mean, yeah, you're definitely going to prefer an AI version of me over this in 10 years. There's no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So, till next time. Good conversation. Thanks for the time, Doug. And
hope everybody learned, and all those that do listen and hit me up on LinkedIn. Great. I love the feedback, and whatever I can do to talk to, let us know too. And happy to provide that back to you guys.
Yeah, no, LinkedIn is definitely a great way to get a hold of Doug and interact with them. as well as Insight Jam. But yeah, thanks very much, Doug. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Powered by Insight Jam.